So we're going to get the Selectmen's meeting together, started for Monday, May 4th, 2015. The first thing on the agenda is Sullivan's Court discussion. We received a letter on April 13th. On behalf of the Walker Development Corporation, I submitted a definitive subdivision plan and application to the Planning Board and a notice of intent to the Conservation Commission for certain work to be done by Walker associated with the 6-lot residential development of 0 Sullivan's Court. The off-site work will include the replacement of drainage structure and pipe crossing Sullivan's Court, the installation of pipe which will conduct water from one side of the road to the other, the installation of a new water main and new services for existing homes, and installation of a new underground utility service, the proposed subdivision, the repair of the existing pavement, modifications of the pavement at the intersection of Sullivan's Court and Whetstone, and finally the installation of a new overlay coat of pavement for the entire length of Sullivan's Court. This work shall be performed at no cost to the town as a result of negotiations with the Planning Board. Okay. We just have, okay. I realize that the street opening permit will be needed from the DPW. That is incorrect. It's from the Board of Selectmen for this work, but at the same time, since the work is proposed within the town right away, I am seeking approval by the Board of Selectmen in advance for applying for the street opening permit. Okay, it's very unusual for us to even look at a street opening permit without even an application made. So I would assume tonight is just basically a informational meeting that, because without an application or anything, I don't plan on voting on anything tonight. Maybe we can look at some stuff and give you some suggestions, what we want and what your plan is. So if you have a brief presentation, that would be great. And if not, we can start a little discussion on it, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for your record, my name is Thomas Nevey. I'm the developer. I'm a trained civil engineer and a land surveyor as well. And I've been developing land in Essex County for a little over 35 years. And it's a great privilege to be here in your town doing a 6-lot subdivision at the end of Sullivan's Court. Are you all familiar with the area, the land? Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm. This is our cover sheet that we use throughout the process with the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission, and outlined with my pointer is the property. And this is Sullivan's Court, and this is Whetstone. And what you see here, not highlighted, is existing. The pavement ends right after the barn, and then this dark line represents the existing, the new right-of-way that we're planning on building a road within. And this is a 50-foot right-of-way that the town owns that goes to River Meadow Drive. So all of our work that we're proposing was done under a permit that we secured through the Planning Board. It's a definitive subdivision application, and we also had two special permit applications, and they were recently approved and filed with the town clerk. We also had to file several permits with the Conservation Commission, one particular to the construction of the street and the ways, and the others on individual lots which were within 100 feet of their jurisdiction. and we were able to secure those permits as well. So I'm happy to be here tonight with you, and as a preliminary meeting, a fact-finding mission, of course, and to go over what we propose, and if there's any changes, revisions, suggestions, otherwise, and we'd like to make those on our drawings, and then propose a street opening permit. So thank you for seeing us in advance of that. What we're planning on doing on Sullivan's Court, it's an existing road, it's 16 feet wide, and the planning board has decided that it should remain 16 feet wide in order to promote the rural character of the town and maintain that and not be disruptive to any of the neighbors or the folks that are using that. They felt it was sufficiently wide enough for this additional 6 homes. So the pavement width will be and remain 16 feet wide. And as a result, the pavement within the new section will also be 16 feet wide. And we've reviewed that with the DPW and the fire department on turning radii and what, the particulars of that cul-de-sac. And I believe that what we have on our final drawings is good for those folks as well. Right now, the town has water on Whetstone, and they have a water main that comes about halfway down Sullivan's Court, and then it ends. There's a hydrant around this location, and then it reduces to a 2-inch diameter pipe, and services from that pipe service these 2 homes. Part of our proposal is to disconnect that 2-inch line and put an 8-inch line, a new ductile line, 8-inch line coming down and servicing this cul-de-sac, and then eventually connecting to another main that's coming down from the other project just up a hill, which is Cottage Advisors. So that will create a nice loop for the town in that general area.
What's the diameter of the main on Whetstone Street?
The diameter of the main in Sullivan's Court is, I believe it's 6 inches.
But on Whetstone Street though, what?
8.
8, okay.
Yeah. And then we're going to put in 8-inch. The connection down here from Cottage Advisors is 6, but I've never put in a water main less than 8, so we proposed 8, and that was acceptable. We'll also be putting hydrants in along that location to the location in positions that were suggested by the fire department as well. And from that, we also are going to connect that water main and go into our development on a common driveway, which will service these homes. That'll be a 6-inch diameter service line to just those residential homes. We are, you also have a culvert that crosses Sullivan's Court and around this location. It's old, it's deteriorated. DPW has had it on its capital improvement list for quite a while, they tell me, and they just haven't had sufficient funds to replace it or do work needed in that location. So we suggested that as part of our development that we do that work. So we're going to be installing a new catch basin with an open throat, able to take the existing drainage that comes downhill and wants to cross Sullivan's Court. We'll put in a new structure in that location and a larger diameter pipe that will conduct it across the street to a wetland system that eventually runs to the Merrimack River. And we pledged that as part of our negotiations with the planning board to do that work at no cost to the town. So underground, the only things that we'll be doing in the existing Sullivan's Court is water extension improvements and drainage improvements to that extent. And then everyone looked at this intersection of Whetstone and Sullivan's Court, and it's a tough little place. The property boundaries are slim, but I think it's everybody's effort here to try to improve that intersection by maybe making the binder a little bit wider, making the turning radii a little bit easier all within the town-owned land, and not encroach, of course, on anybody else's property or create any impediments that would restrict the use of private property. So we talked about possibly widening the radii a couple feet, putting a new binder coat down, maybe widening that intersection on the opposite side of whetstone on the easterly side and making that much easier way to take that corner. We need a little bit of cooperation with our neighbors in that location because they do park in and around that intersection, and I can't do anything about it, but it would be nice if we were able to leave that intersection unparked at the end. I think it would be a safer environment for everybody, but that's up to you. So and then as a final result, we're planning on paving this whole road and overlaying it with new pavement, again at no cost to the town. So we will put, we have a specific cross-section that was determined by the planning board that was necessary for that overlay. And when we're finished, we'll have a new intersection at Whetstone, 50 feet in both directions, and the entire length of Sullivan's Court, including our development, paved. So what we planned on doing is taking all these improvements to a binder coat of pavement until the construction is complete. Then repair any of the binder that's there, whether it's existing or it's put in by us, and any damages to the road during construction, repairing it before the overlay happens. We think that's the right way to go, and there's a construction sequence that was put into our permit with the planning board that is quite detailed in that regard.
Makes sense.
Is that it?
Is there a
So we
stop?
can start some questions?
Yeah.
Because I want to bring this to
Go ahead.
questions, and there's people in the audience. Okay, you did not mention that you're going to change the grade at the end of Sullivan's Court. You're going to be changing the grade. I know that is in a proposal, correct?
Yes. In order to get the grade of the new road to match the grade of the existing road, we're going to be changing the grade just in front of the barn.
Mm-hmm.
That
What
grade-
type of engineering have you done to make sure that the runoff of that new grade will not bother any of the existing homes in that thing? And I don't even know if that's the right question. But as soon as you start changing grades on the streets, it starts to change runoff. So that makes me concerned about the existing homes on that street.
As
Has
part-
anything been done, or
Yes.
I don't even know?
Well, as part of the development, this is the overall plan for the development. This shows existing grades and it shows the final grades of the development.
I'm just concerned of what we're responsible for. What you've done with the planning board is what you've done with the planning board. What we have jurisdiction over is Sullivan's Court and Whetstone Street. That's what we have jurisdiction over. And then the town meeting will have jurisdiction over if we accept that road or not. That. So whatever you have decided with the planning board, like 16 feet here, keeping that, I mean, I understand that the process has gone through, but we have the final say of how wide we want that road and how much we want to have that intersection, or what we want improvements on that road. That's about all that's about all the juice that this board has. So what I'm concerned about is the grade change on that. So if we could speak to the grade change on the existing road.
Before the development is proposed, or any grade changes are proposed, we have to do a full drainage study of this entire area, including the drainage that flows from off-site, uplands that are off-site draining towards.
Mm-hmm.
When the development is proposed, we also have to do what we call a post-development drainage study. That was done. Both pre-development and post-development drainage study was done. And detention ponds and swales and stormwater management ponds were built and proposed so that we met the stormwater management policies of the DEP.
Mm-hmm. But to bring it back into a simplistic thing, because I honestly don't know. So changing the grade on that road is not going to make, when it rains out, not going to make a river go down somebody else's driveway. That's not happening now. That's how simplistic I kind of want it, because that's how what I think about.
That's a good statement. That's exactly.
You know what I mean? Just so all of a sudden, never happened before, now I'm getting water in my cellar because the whole thing has changed and it's coming in my driveway. That's all I'm thinking about. That's how I kind of think, because I think that's how everybody else thinks. You can tell us about retention ponds and this and that, but all of a sudden when a river is coming down somebody's yard, now because the grade has changed in Florida, and you know, the bond has already been given back to you for all this stuff, and then, you know, we have to deal with, our DPW now has to deal with that.
You won't have to.
Okay, you know what,
I do.
I'm just trying to
You won't
think
have to.
simple.
There's actually a hill here that you're taking down, which is coming down about 4 feet. There's a big hump in the road. It's done for a
I was
number of
there.
reasons. So that will actually lessen velocity of that
Mhm.
water that goes. And then we're also proposing to put a swale on the side of the road, on both sides of the road, and install a new cross culvert here, which will take the water across the road and put it into this wetland. So we're not only changing the grade, but we've done those drainage improvements to ensure that there'll be no problems for the town afterwards. And no water from this development flows on anybody else's property other than ours.
Okay. Do you have any other questions on that? Because I'm going to continue my
No.
question, if you don't mind. Do you mind? Okay. Let's start going into the development. Okay, so you didn't mention that. That's the reason why I brought that up first. So on Whetstone Street, I personally believe there's no way that an additional 2 feet on the right-hand side is going to make any effect at all to taking a left-hand turn and making that safe. And there's a pole there that I think that maybe we need to talk about removing or putting in a different place. I mean, I know there's a street light there, there's a street light up there, so there's proper lighting. But I think we need to talk about that pole, not tonight, but I want you to think about it. And if you're only thinking about putting 2 extra feet on the right-hand side, I won't pass that. So that's something we can talk about now, or if you have any other questions on that. I mean, if you've been down there.
If you don't want me to touch the intersection of Whetstone Road, we won't.
I didn't say that. I'm saying that you mentioned to me, just in my simplistic drawings, coming down Whetstone here, okay, you mentioned, I thought, in your preliminary thing, that you were going to add 2 feet over here to make the radius of turning into that street a lot easier and maybe opening up this Sullivan's Court a little bit more, right? And forget about the parking. That's our problem, not your problem, and which is correct that you said. But adding 2 more feet on this side, I don't think is going to help anything. So I wouldn't pass 2 more feet. I would want more over here. And then there's a pole right here that we need to talk about. Maybe it might be, maybe it not be, but it's so, I honestly don't know. It's a little too close for me for safety with turning into there. For my own personal thing, I don't know what the other 2 board members.
Where is that exactly?
When you're coming down Whetstone Street.
Is it on the right or the left?
It's on the right. So you have to come, and there's a pole right there. And it's one of those poles, it's not like it's not a rail pole. I think it's a support pole for the other pole across the street.
Is it before or after Sullivan's Court?
It's
right in the
added. It's added.
It's right in the middle of it.
Okay, so that's something that we would need to talk about. And the increase of 2 feet on this side. Then you turn into here, and you said maybe opening up Sullivan's Court a little bit to make sure that would be definite. I would not support 16 feet on Sullivan's Court. That will be a minimum of 18 feet for me. I will not vote on 16 feet. I was down there today. You cannot even pass 2 cars going on 16 feet. I understand the slower the road, in the head, people go slower, safer for kids. I disagree with that. You need 2 more feet to be able to have 2 cars pass at a safe thing. So but I don't want to encroach on anybody's land either. So if we have to maybe, sometimes you just can't, in existing old roads, it can't be straight. You know what I mean by that? You might need 18 feet here, and then, you know what I mean by that? Just so you get it. But I won't give a street opening permit if that street is still 16 feet. I won't do it. I won't. And I think that's all we have, and I would like another light. I personally would want another light closer to your development. There's going to be a lot more traffic. I mean, that road was basically made for the barn, for the farm. That's what that road was made for, the farm. Now we're going now with the existing roads on that street, the existing houses on that street, in the new homes, that road won't take it. I mean, it's all going to be families. It's going to be people down there now, which is terrific. I sat in on your planning board stuff. I think you need another light coming down towards Sullivan's Court. And I don't want to be misleading to these 2 gentlemen, but you mentioned about the radii of the street that we're going to have to accept. I don't think I almost know for a fact the DPW did not like that, and the fire chief did not like that.
The DPW didn't like the...
So I just want to make sure because you said it met their approval and the fire chief's approval, and I think it's going exactly against what their recommendations were. So we don't have any real say in that, but the only say that we have on that is that it doesn't have to be, it would be a fight at town meeting to accept it. You know what I mean? So I'd hate for you to build it, and then all of a sudden you get people at town meeting that stand up and say, we need to accept that, and it's going to be our responsibility for the rest of its life, the towns, that is. and then you have a debate on town meeting floor for the selectmen to be able to accept that street as a town street. I would hate to see that.
You don't have to accept it as a town street.
No, we don't. We don't have to, and it could be a
It
privately
could
owned street.
remain
And you,
private.
But
yeah,
there's
you
a-
take
there's-
care of it.
well,
You
there's
take
one
care of it.
problem. You probably have a lot of private roads in the
Yeah.
town that you haven't accepted, but
I just wanted to be open with you. I mean,
No,
this is what this meeting's all about.
I'm
You know what I
happy-
mean?
I'm happy to hear.
I don't, if I seem a little aggressive or anything like that, I don't mean to. I want this meeting to be what it is, an informational meeting. You know where we stand, or at least you know where I stand, right? And I just, when you say that when things, sometimes when things get said, they become, you know, the truth, or so to speak. I'm not saying that you're lying, but I just want to make sure that when you say something that that radius and stuff was accepted and was recommended, or was accepted by the DPW and the fire chief, it
That's
wasn't.
not-
Okay.
That's correct, and I'm sorry if
Okay.
you heard me wrong, but
Okay.
it was absolutely okay with the fire chief. The DPW superintendent, it was not okay. I have emails from the fire chief. He gave me his template for his ladder truck.
Mhm.
He gave me all the specifications of the turning radius. He asked me to put that ladder truck on that radius circle, and
Mhm.
to demonstrate that it was okay. And it was okay. And I gave it back to him, and I said, does that meet your approval? I have emails that say
Okay.
he's fine with that.
I think that he's-
DPW did not like the circle at all. He
Mhm.
thought it was very problematic for himself in doing plowing in particular,
Mhm.
and wanted to have a hammerhead circle
Mhm.
instead of a circle, he wanted a hammerhead turnaround, which I presented in both fashions, as
Mhm.
honestly as I could, with the geometry as a civil engineer, and asked the planning board to make a decision.
Mhm.
I believed, and I asked them, you know, they asked my opinion, as a civil engineer with turning radius and proper roadway design, which do you prefer to build? It's more expensive for us to build a circle and cul-de-sac, so most
And it looks
developers
better.
would take the cheaper way out. I didn't. It really should be a circle, and it should be a cul-de-sac, and it should be that way for a lot of reasons, and it's an end, and should be turned, people should be able to turn around. Emergency vehicles should be able to turn around. It shouldn't be a
So what's
hammerhead.
the total of that
It's
circle?
120-foot diameter cul-de-sac to the edge of the right of way, and it's paved 100 feet.
I think I'm gonna say that you're right in the sense that the fire chief would prefer the other one, but this one, the radius and stuff, when putting on it, was fine, and he could work with that. I think, so I'm gonna step back and say, I'm sorry for that comment from him, but you're right, he would prefer the other one, but this one would work.
And he did, and this is a typical cul-de-sac that the planning board would approve for any new street. So this isn't new. We didn't ask for a waiver. We did get a landscaped island in the middle, which they prefer, and we got a wider one because we're going around the circle instead of having the circle paved more. We get more landscaping, and it'll be a prettier place.
Mhm.
But they also insisted that there be no street trees, no vegetation on the side of the road, that there be enough open land and gravelled flat land so that there would be sufficient places to put stone. Also, at the end here, which is what goes to the town easement, this part of the road will not be built. So this circle will just go around and leave. And this also becomes a staging area for additional snow to be piled up on that land. It'll be level, it'll be 50 feet wide, and nobody has access across that, and it'd be a great spot to put.
Okay, let's bring it back to Whetstone Street now, okay?
Good.
Okay, we have any questions
No,
about
go ahead.
that? I'm gonna bring it, okay, I just wanted to make sure I got all that information out to you. So now let's bring it to Whetstone Street. Do you see my concerns on there, and do you have anything that you'll come back the next time? Do you see any stumbling blocks about, I don't think 2 feet's gonna make it, and and we have to really look at that pole?
I'd like to know where do we get that 2 feet? We're getting it on the right where there's the slope and the swale, or we're getting it on the
On the right, if I'm not
Opposite
mistaken.
That's correct, you're getting it on the right, and the
So the
reason-
car, this is going
but
down
that's
West.
kind of soft and goes down there.
Well, this is going down Whetstone Street. You're going down Whetstone Street, and so you have to kind of come around like that.
Right.
That's what, so he
That's not why I'm widening it in that location. I'm widening it in that location because because there's a little bit of a bow in Whetstone Street at that location. So if you were to go 50 feet beyond that intersection and look up along the edge of the pavement, you'll see a little bit of a bow. When the town, I guess a few years back, the town came in and they put drainage down the right side of Whetstone Street as you head down toward the river. And when they did that, there's crushed stone and there's a new drain line there, and then they paved it and they made certain improvements. The road isn't straight. I mean, it's an old country road, and it just bows a little bit at Sullivan's Court. So if we went out and took that bow out, I'm thinking a couple feet would do it, it would make it straight and it would be a little pleasing. Do we need to take the bow out? No, not to make the turn. Absolutely not to make the turn. The important part of making the turn is the inside radius on the left side, of the inside.
Of Sullivan's
So
Court.
if we're gonna concentrate it all on making something that you think makes sense, then it's the two radii that are towards Sullivan's Court. Opening that up a little bit and widening that and making that an easier turn would be better for everybody. that's
On the
turning
inside
towards-
of the turn.
On the
Mhm.
inside of the turn.
Mhm.
But, you know, when I spoke to Gary, a DPW superintendent, he was looking to straighten that side of Whetstone on the right, coming into that, because he had already made those drainage improvements and thought a little extra pavement there would make a lot of sense. In fact, he asked me to go, you know, 500 feet up the road when we had a development of 15 lots originally contemplated, and then it went to 11, and then it went to 9.
To
now we're
connect
getting
what,
to 6.
he's talking about to go all the way up the road towards the square to connect what Cottage Advisories did.
Correct.
That's
Oh,
what he's
okay.
talking about.
So when we
That's when
first met,
the
he
development
talked
was a
about,
lot more.
you know, a litany of items.
Mhm, Yeah, but that's what, we're not talking about that anymore.
Well,
So let's just talk about what's out on our plate right now. So that's, okay, so then what would you do if you think that the Sullivan's Court needs to be opened up a little bit? What would you talk to us about that tonight? What would you think?
Well, what we planned on doing was we planned on painting it on the ground, because it's something that's so minor, and, you know, a foot or two here and there. You can't put that on a 40 scale drawing. It's the
Mhm.
width of a pencil.
Mhm.
So we talked about, there's a pre-construction meeting that we were going to have, go out in the field, actually mark it on the ground, have everybody who wanted to any approving authority who wanted to make comment about it,
Mhm.
discuss it, and actually then go ahead and build it. I mean, it's going to be a turnkey kind of situation. We spelled it out in our decision with the planning board, saying that 50 feet north and south of that intersection at Whetstone, we would go 50 feet down Whetstone, we would go 50 feet up Whetstone, and we would do as much on Sullivan's Court as anybody deemed it was appropriate to make that turn.
So let's talk about Sullivan's Court. Give me the negatives of taking it to 18 feet.
There's the only negative of making a street wider is it tends to speed people up. But the difference between 16, 18, and 20, it's
Not,
insignificant.
yeah, especially from 16 to 18.
The difference between 16 and 18, I think it was brought out at the meeting that if we're going to keep it as a rural country lane, and there are existing people that live there, and there are people that don't want any more pavement toward their property. They want the edge of the existing Sullivan's Court to remain where it is. They don't want any trees planted. They don't want anything to change. You know, my kids play out there. I don't want to lose
Well,
any more of my land.
A kid couldn't
after-
be on that street with 2 cars on it right now.
I
I mean, it's impossible.
You're asking me how did this evolve? I'm only
No,
trying to-
I'm asking you what the negative portions of it. I mean, I don't care how it
It's just
evolved.
a
If we
country
ask
lane.
you to put it up 18 feet and you say yes or no, no, we physically can't do it. No, I've looked into it 1,000 times, and engineering-wise, it can't happen. You know what, Mr. Kemper, let me look into it and I'll get back to you. And then you come back to us and say, you know what, your 18 feet won't work because we'll just take too much. I mean, everybody's here tonight. They
Your
might,
18 feet will work.
yeah, or it will work. So
It will work.
Mhm.
But it was proposed to be 20 feet wide.
Well, I'm not looking, I think that's too much.
It was proposed to be 20 feet wide because that's the width of what you ask for these rural roads to be. So we didn't come into the process with a subdivision plan asking for 16 feet. It evolved into 16 feet on a number of reasons. You know, some of them I already mentioned to you. The folks down there were concerned about widening that road. They were concerned about having more pavement in front of their house and losing what they perceive as being their front yard, which is really town.
Curb or no curb?
And there's no curb.
There is no existing curb.
Right, I know.
And, you know, having a 1 foot additional gravel shoulder with 16 feet of pavement might make a little bit more sense, because you'll now have 18 feet wide of traveled way, which will be hard and sufficient, but you'll have 16 feet. But if you're asking me, do I care? I don't care. Okay. But that's how it came about, and I think that, you know.
That's fine, okay, that's fine.
To appreciate months, not just minutes, months of discussion about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was finally established to be, that it should be a rural.
It might be a good, looking at it hindsight of being a money mounting quarterback, since we're the ones that are responsible for that, we should have gotten into it ahead of time. You know what I mean? That we're responsible for the Sullivan's Court portion and the Whetstone Court, but just money mounting quarterback, then you don't have to go through it all again. You know what I mean?
If I didn't mind going through it, I don't mind going through it now.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying mine, but do you have any questions on that? Because that seems like I'm
No,
incorporating
you're doing
everything.
fine. I just wanted to make sure we heard from Gary, from the planning board, from the neighbors. Which I assume you-
Yeah, I just wanted to make his presentation,
Yep.
and then if we had any major questions, and then I
Yep.
was going to ask any of the butters if they have any concerns, and I think if Gary has anything, and I think he does, want to be here or talk about it, and that's it. I think I've heard from some of the abutters that obviously they were concerned about the utilities coming in, about the road, about a lot of things. So that
There won't be any
actually pretty.
utilities. We're not going to put any trees.
Mhm.
We're not going to change the edge of the pavement along the existing road, because folks didn't want to lose anything in their front yard. We're not going to plant any of these trees. The planning board opted not to plant any
Mhm.
trees. The wires end here and will be then going underground. So this will all be underground.
So they go
And-
underground before the hill.
Yes, correct. Right, there's a utility pole. It's the end of the utility pole where it is today.
Mhm.
From that point, it will be underground. You won't see it.
The new house that has the foundation.
That's not ours. but
I understand that you hope that they hope that you bring that down.
Well-
because it's already down. That if you don't bring the grade of that road down, it's all going to go into his driveway.
Well,
So at the end, so that new house and then the house that's proposed on the other side or whatever, that will all be underground utilities, or will they feed off that pole? I'm just curious. That doesn't really matter.
everything we're doing is underground.
Yep.
And I believe Mike Joaquin will go underground, but I can't.
Okay, it doesn't.
Because I don't know.
It doesn't matter, but I was just
But I
curious.
have been involved in his planning of his lot. We gave him our plans for the road, he gave us his plans for the development of the lot, and we created some synergy, so we're all on the same page.
Which is smart. Thank you for doing that.
And if he doesn't even build that, we did a no-build situation in here. We didn't take that road down to match his land. All the improvements that we're planning on doing were within the right-of-way. So he had to come to us. We met the existing grade of that driveway. If he wanted to be up 1.5 feet, which I think he does because he likes it better, then he'll meet our new grade.
Okay. Now, I'd like to open with Joe. Are there any things that anybody here would like to ask some questions about? And now, please, this isn't going to turn into a crucify the development, because it's always been like this. This is just hopefully a constructive meeting that all questions come through me. I don't want any cross-examination, right?
Gary first, maybe?
Gary, do you have, well, let's,
Yeah, Mark Bellardo, 8 Sullivan's Court. I just haven't heard.
you need to use a microphone, sir.
Pardon me?
You need to use a microphone?
It's being, yes,
Yeah, just because
it's being broadcast on cable.
yeah, it'll be on TV.
You want to sit here?
No, you can use that.
I just haven't heard, the last meeting I was at, I know he's going for 6 lots, but I haven't heard whether they're duplex lots or single-family lots. Because that's a huge difference in the amount of cars.
Yeah,
They're
they're
single-family.
single-family homes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Sir? And then Gary, you want to say anything? You have it?
Hi, I just live up on Whetstone. My main concern is just traffic. You know, the increase in traffic. There's a lot of kids. People zip down there already. You know, when they start coming down the hill. Has there been any studies done? Because even though it's 6, what is that? 12 more cars, maybe 15 more cars coming through that. Has there been any kind of studies on that, or maybe my biggest concern? I got 2 small ones, and they're out there playing, and I just want to make sure that that's been taken into consideration. That's all.
I think it has, and it will be by us.
And that's my
because-
fault because I haven't been involved yet. This is my first meeting, so.
But there's no real studies because there's no real traffic there anyway. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I believe that, and I may be speaking out of school, but I believe Cottage Advisors, because they have 30 units going in there, I believe they did do a traffic study.
Well, they did.
But that's at
they
the
did
top,
traffic.
though.
They did
Yeah,
one
they.
up at the end.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did one up at the end just,
Oh, just
and
at
that was
the
all.
end,
That
at
was
the
all
intersection
about.
of
I think so,
113.
Yeah, to
Okay.
be able to decide if we should take out the pole or not, and all
see,
that. That's
but
what
that's
that
at the
traffic
top,
study.
though. I'm not
That-
too
no.
worried about that.
We
you
didn't
know.
do a traffic study.
But that would
We
be
don't-
my concern. Is
It
just,
really. I mean, we
you
know how many cars go down there a day.
Exactly.
You know
But
what I mean?
then
Honestly, I don't think it would mean. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No,
I
no,
don't
that's
think
fine.
a traffic study would mean.
But I'm just saying,
I mean,
there is a lot of kids, you know.
yeah, I
two
mean,
little
what I would
ones,
like to
and
do
that's one of
with
my
this whole
big
thing,
concerns.
I think that there might need to be a stop sign.
Yes.
Or two
Something
down.
to slow people down.
Down there.
I can
mean,
live
but
with
that's
that,
whole. That's not this gentleman. This is
No, no, I
something-
know, but that's
But-
my overriding concern is just that.
Yep, I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anybody else? Yep, come on up, please. You don't even have to come up. You can use that microphone, but just make sure it's on. Yep, or just make sure it's on. But you need to bring it up to your mouth, please.
There we go. Cindy Sherburne, 14 Sullivan's Court. It sounds like from this meeting that you're going to plan to widen the road, and I just have concerns, not only the cars that go down there, the speed. I mean, you say there's not traffic. There is traffic, and it's increased ever since Cottage started up on the hill. People come down just to see. And I'm the last house down there now, and they still fly by my house with the road as wide as it is now. If you widen it even more, it's just going to create more problems, more, the safety of the neighborhood will be gone. I mean, the planning board went through a lot of discussion about the width of that road, and that if we kept it the way it is, more in character of the town, it'll be safer for those of us who live down there.
Can I ask that? I'd like to ask a question about
Sure.
that, because I was there today.
Mhm.
You can't. I was in a pickup truck, and a pickup truck, and another good-sized vehicle came the other way.
Right?
You could not pass without kind of slowing down and getting by. So if there was a kid on a bike or if there was somebody on the street, they would have to get off the road for us to go by each other. I was there today with town employees, and we couldn't.
And that slows people down. That's a good thing.
Well, it also varies between, that
I mean,
pavement varies between 14 feet and 16 feet, so.
Yeah, I understand, but I don't
It's
want to go
16
to.
feet wide.
I don't want to go to 20. You know what I mean? I think that's ridiculous. But just to have a little extra room, or even talk about having the 16 feet and then plus the gravel on either side.
We do have the gravel on each
You know what I
side.
mean? Just to do that. But okay. I mean, I don't.
I think it's 2 feet of gravel on each side proposed.
Okay, thank you. Brian, did you want to say something?
It's 16 feet wide with 2-foot gravel shoulders on each side, the way we have it proposed.
Thank you.
Brian Murphy, I'm chair of the planning board. I just hope as this proceeds along that you do keep in mind that we, as Cindy says, we spent an awful long time talking about that road, site walk down there. We listened carefully. We couldn't solve all of the issues down there, but all the members of the board feel that road should be narrower and not wider. In other words, the 16 was done with great thought. We think that the 6 additional houses will add a negligible amount of traffic to the road. And the fact that you have to slow down to pass something, it's a good thing. It really is. You know, I understand Gary may like bigger roads, easier to push the snow off or whatever, but I think we have to be sensitive to what we're trying to build here. And the idea was somewhat of a continuation of a country lane, and that was the idea. I know it's up to you in terms of what you ultimately would like to
It might
see
not be
down
in
there.
16 minutes. I might lose the election. so I might in 16 minutes.
maybe-
or so.
maybe we can
This
get it
might
up.
not have anything to do with me.
Get
I
an update.
hope it does,
Yeah.
but we don't know.
There was an extensive review, and I just hope that you consider that. And I understand
I understand.
you've seen this tonight and have to digest it and whatnot.
The reason why we have these meetings is so we can talk things out.
Yeah, the two abutters, the La Salas and I'm sorry, Mr. Susi on the corner there, Debbie Green. I don't even want to take any of their land. The board doesn't want to take any of their land that even is within the town right of way. It is tight down there, but I think it's doable, and I think that Mr. Nevy has proposed a good solution to field mark what we can do there without taking 3 feet of what they have considered to be their land, even though probably officially we know it's
It's
in
a
the
right of
town
way
right
of the town, it's not their land, correct.
And we had a lot of debate in some of the meetings about that. But let's just be cognizant. The two houses are where they are, and we should try to be sensitive to it. I think the reason Tom had come up and said we want to widen the 2 feet, I'm not sure how much further we can go into that embankment on the right-hand side as you go down the hill, but it was to avoid impacting the abutters that live on the left.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Gary, I think nobody else wants to speak. They didn't have their hand up.
Where's this go?
Gary?
Okay, as far as Whetstone Street, widen it out on the bottom, like I originally said, I think if we get all we can, like 100 feet either side of the intersection, you know, you're starting at 0 and gradually widen it out. When you get to Sullivan's Court, you're probably 2.5 feet wider than it is now. It ain't the greatest, but it's basically all you can do there, and clean up the other 2 radiuses, you'll probably be fine. And I was down there today measuring, and the road is actually, very few places are exactly 16. That's 16 and a half to 17 point something feet wide the road is, if you clean the edges back. So to make it 18 feet paved, you're not even gonna notice that difference on
Right,
looking
say-
at
say-
it, but it's gonna make a big difference as far as pushing snow and oil trucks going down, not getting in the shoulder.
Say that again, Gary. How wide is it currently?
A few inches over 16 to a little over 17 it is. It's varied. Every place you measure, you get a different measurement, because it's all.
See, we think in the sense that when you have 2 cars and they can't pass, and you have a big oil truck on one side, then all of a sudden they have to go over so far. Now the road cracks, then you know what I mean? We think in it long term, how long for the road. So,
if you
okay,
rather than having the gravel shoulders, they don't work. Every time it rains, it washes out. If you put a gravel shoulder on that hill, every bit of that gravel shoulder during a heavy rainstorm is going to end right up in Cindy's yard down there. We live it every day, every time it rains. I'd prefer to see a small berm on that side and empty it into where the throat catch basin's going to be. And that way, she would get no water from the town property.
generally how these things work is that you work with Gary, and when the thing gets to us, if he has no questions, we have no questions. Do you know what I mean by that?
He was the first one I called.
I understand.
Basically,
So
to get to the
you have to work out with what he wants, and that would make us happy, I think, or
Basically,
at
get
least
to
me
18
happy.
feet, just gotta clean the edges up and pave it, you really don't have to do much. And you're gonna cross the street with the water main, is that what you're gonna do from where it leads off now across the?
Yes.
So you're taking that side up anyway?
Well, we have a wider shoulder there now.
Right.
Widening it in.
Is the main under the street or on the side?
It's gonna try to be in the gravel shoulder, so if it has to ever be excavated, we won't have to excavate.
Coming in Sullivan's Court now, it's on the left side, where it ends there, he's gonna
We're gonna
45 it across the street and then go up the other side.
Oh,
of the street.
okay.
That's why
So
it's-
then, because
water's-
all his development's on the other side.
But-
It has to go eventually
So
over there.
it's got to cross at some point.
The water superintendent asked me at that point if I could cross and then get into the shoulder of our development, because there was less, there's no houses there, it'd be less intrusive.
But until you get down to where the water ends by Jay's house, you can just, a few inches on each side of the road would you get you your 18, and then once you get by there, you could do it all on the right side of the road, so it wouldn't impact the houses on the left side. And on the cut, the 4-foot cut or whatever you're doing, you cutting that whole hill right off of the barn is?
Yeah, that big hill is gonna come down.
Because we have a very severe drifting problem there in the wintertime, so if you had a bank, and it would be,
There'd be no embankment there.
yeah,
It'd be straight across.
that's great, that's good.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what you want to do.
Okay. Any questions? So at this point, I would actually ask you to work with Gary on all those recommendations that he just made, kind of think about what we talked about tonight, and then get together with him and do the application, and then we'll have questions with him. And if you, and set out a time with Gary, and then and tell Chris when you plan on maybe showing us, and we will all come down there and look at it. Or Gary will be the representative if we can't make it. Is that all right with you?
It's fine with me.
And what about a street light farther down? Just for safety, is it, it's just, listen, people talk to me in the neighborhood, I bring forth things. I don't know if they're good or bad, but they're worthy for discussion because they're taxpayers and you know, they have
I would
concerns.
say at the one at that intersection would be, Main Street, that's all you have is one at an intersection. One,
Is there one at that intersection now?
I don't know if there's, I don't know where it is now.
There is at the corner of Sullivan's and Whetstone, there is one.
That's all you
Okay.
need.
Okay.
There's
That was-
one at the bottom of the hill. I live right across the street from the entrance, there's a light right there.
Okay. It's just something that was brought. My duty is to bring it out. You any questions?
Just, were there any other comments from anybody else? Dan, did you have anything?
I just had one. We also.
Can you use the
Microphone.
microphone, please?
J. Susi, 3 Sullivan's Court. I had one concern. I know he's going to be replacing one culvert in front of Cindy's.
Say that,
Please.
can you say that one more time? I didn't hear that.
He's replacing one culvert in front of Cindy's house.
Oh, Cindy's house. Yep.
Okay. There's still another culvert that is got some grade issues that needs some concerns. It's caving in. I figured
know
while
anything
we're
about that,
doing all
Gary?
this work,
Yeah, it's got couple of issues on the ends of it, we were gonna repair that. That's all we were gonna do, I wasn't gonna replace the pipe. It's concrete pipe, so it's decent.
Okay. So that's something that you would take care of while doing the road?
No, we're gonna, the big one that is a real problem is the one that we're gonna replace right here. And then we were also planning on putting a small culvert that goes across the road right in front of
Cindy Sherburne's. Yep.
And that's the second culvert, yes.
So what's the,
Well, why are you putting one there?
I'm talking about the culvert coming from Whetstone, the first culvert.
That swale up.
The
Across the road.
But if you just put a little berm there, you won't have to put anything.
okay, but I want to know, Gary, I want to know about the culvert, Carrie, I want to know about the culvert that we're talking about so we all can be on the same page because I still don't think we're talking about it. It's the first one coming off Whetstone?
Just past LaSalle's.
Just past the south.
LaSalle's and this gentleman's house.
Going down Sullivan. That's the one he's talking about. That's the first one that he's going to, he's going to,
No, he's not doing anything with that.
There's 2 wetland systems. One is next to our property and one is further down the road between here and Whetstone. The one
show me where Whetstone Street is from that map, please. Oh.
So there's another culvert, I think,
Oh.
right in this.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, that drains across into this big wetland.
There's a problem with that one?
That's the one that the gentleman's speaking of.
Is there a problem with that one?
I thought it was just the end of the pipe, I'll look at it.
Can you look at it, please, for us?
Yeah.
Make a recommendation? Please? Anything else?
No.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. Lisa? Thank you. This is something that wasn't on, but it's, we're going to talk about that, though, after, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's just an emergency type of thing. We're allowed by Mike to put it on. She's in.
Yep.
Hey, Jason. Won't you have... I'm doing well, thanks. Have a seat. How do you pronounce your last name?
Puglisi.
Thank you.
You get a lot of sun today out there.
Yeah, too much. A big fat head doesn't help. It's a good, whatever, conductor. Okay,
Anyways, I know you're cramped for time. I
Mhm.
had asked Jason to come in just because it's a full-time position that we're filling, and I thought it might be nice if you just were able to put a face to a name. And we were fortunate that, I think last year Jason had sent an application in when we were looking for people. And fortunately, I keep those for a few years, and I reached out to people who had applied, and he was one of them. He's currently employed in, like it says on the paperwork, in Arlington, and lives close by and has a new baby and would like to
I have a question.
commute closer.
Sure.
Where's Magnolia Street in Arlington?
East Arlington, right off of Mass Ave.
I know, it's my mother grew up. I just want to make sure he knew what he was doing.
My grandmother lived on Magnolia.
My grandmother lived on Magnolia.
Same last name.
No. How far down?
She lived about halfway down on the right-hand side if you're coming off of Mass. Late 80s.
All the way down on, all the way down on the left-hand side.
So more towards the park.
Yep, like the second house to the park on the left. That's where my mother grew up. Okay, so at least he knows if he works in a town, if he's gonna dispatch a police or a fire, he knows where Magnolia Street is. That's all I know in Arlington. I just want to make sure he knew the
Hopefully
street. If he said it was out near Lexington, I was gonna say, I don't know.
More towards the Cambridge line.
Yep.
Grew up there.
Yeah.
Oh, you grew up in Arlington too?
Yeah.
I lived in Arlington for 10 years, so.
Whereabouts?
Gardner Street.
Oh, I lived Memorial Way.
How about you,
Okay.
Joe?
No. See how we digress? Goes to go. Okay. Okay, so I don't know.
Anyways, the other, very fortunate thing we have is that Jason is currently, he's trained in the same things that we need him to be trained in.
Excellent.
So that was an easy fit.
Not that I'm an expert, but he appears well qualified.
Yes.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Jason, I just had one question. Coming from a bigger place, you're gonna be bored.
I said that to him too. I said, you're gonna be bored.
I'm okay with it. I've been doing it almost 9 years, so I'm okay with the change of pace.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Still here. Still here.
Okay.
She has a lot of like second, third, fourth, like additions to the job too for you. I'm sure she'll come
He
up
can
with
do
stuff.
it. He can do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we appoint Jason E. Puglisi to a full-time dispatcher's position effective June 2nd, 2000. Excuse me?
Through.
June
2000.
30. Right?
Yes.
Till June 15th. I thought it was.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Okay, why don't we?
Why don't we do the whole year?
Yeah. Why don't we just? What are these dispatchers? Are they only 1-year appointments? I'm sorry that I don't know this.
Full-time, we did 3.
Okay, so I request that, okay, Jason E. Puglisi to be appointed to a full-time dispatcher effective June 2nd, 2015, ending June 15th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
excuse me, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Welcome aboard.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
guys.
coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Jason.
That's a good man.
Thanks for meeting with me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
anytime, sir.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Thanks for meeting with me.
Yep.
Make a motion,
Thank you, guys.
is the Roselli guy here yet?
No.
Okay. If you guys don't mind, I want to get through this as quick as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And then
You want to leave? Go
the
ahead.
audit, I mean, I don't know if I'd rather go home and just hit myself or sit here and listen to that. So,
You can go home and have
I'm
a couple
kidding.
popsicles.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
hold
feel
the
as well as I
popsicle
need
on your
to.
head.
Okay, make a motion to accept the minutes of April 21st and April 27th as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to accept, to approve the payroll and invoice warrants.
Second.
We have a second. Do we have any questions on them?
I had one, yeah.
No, great.
I just had a question, and I...
You want it or no?
No, it's just sort of a general question on, there were a couple, the library's gonna be mad at me again. I had a couple of questions on the library invoices about, I wanted to, I called the library today, but the library director was off today, so I couldn't get an answer. But I'm just curious about the the invoices from the museums that we get. They seem actually quite high. I wonder if the town gets its money's worth on those. Like,
Oh, for the passes, yeah.
yeah, one invoice for like Plymouth Plantation was $850, and you gotta get a lot of discounts to make up $850.
You really do.
I was.
If they could ask if they do a cost analysis on those discounts.
That's
if-
what I
if you
wanted.
could-
I'm gonna call her tomorrow and do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's.
We have some information. I actually got in touch with her today. Yep.
Oh, you
Thank
did? Oh, okay.
So
On this question?
on this question, yes, I saw the note, so I tried to contact her and she responded back. So this is the first year that they're actually trying this campaign. Although I've seen it very successful in other communities, you know, I think that the library has a lot of deep connections in this town, and people actually use it. There are a number of people that have responded to previous programs along these lines, and this is her feedback, by the way. I'm not
You're speaking.
interjecting.
Yep, I understand.
Right.
Okay, so this is the first year that they're actually able to fund this, and I believe she has a lot of people that have already asked for this already, so that there would be no loss to the town as far as people taking part in this campaign.
It just seems like we're spending money so that someone can get a discount to go to.
Plymouth Plantation.
Yeah, like,
And are we even
it's sort of like income redistribution. Someone can, you know, buy someone else's ticket to the Boston Pops or something. It just sort of seems.
Why don't you call her? And then,
I'm gonna call, yeah.
Okay, so that's the question. Did you have anything, John?
Nope.
Okay, so it's been moved, it's been seconded and discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Something that we had to put on the agenda where the police is here is that we had approved a town meeting for the F-150 pickup truck to be replaced by another vehicle. That was approved. In the motion, it was to be disposed of the best
Interest of time.
best thing of the police chief and the Board of Selectmen. So it now has died. So she wants to be able to, you know, she's offset, got $5,500 for a trade-in. She shopped it around. Wants us just to approve this so when the other vehicle is ready, we can.
So we're approving the sale, the disposition of that
The
truck.
disposition of the truck for $5,500.
Fine.
Okay, I'm going to make that a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That was easy, thank you.
Yep.
What kind
Animal.
of, can I ask a question of, what are you getting? It's a Ford Interceptor?
Yeah, the SUV.
It's
To
the,
replace it with the-
Explorer.
yeah.
It's the state police ones.
Right. Did Rick Parker call you?
No,
We're going.
it's all done, sorry.
No, well, no. We're going in that. She looks. But it just you can't use it.
Getting a pedal car next year, too.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. I asked.
Fire.
We can't get a
police and
Tesla?
fire accident renewal quote.
Tesla?
Yeah, how much it costs?
You see that new Tesla batteries for your home?
Yeah.
Animal control contract. Do we want to talk about that? Yeah, I know. We want to talk about that? It's on the agenda. We talked about
Yeah,
it.
you put it on the agenda because you wanted me here.
Mm-hmm.
I did send you something after I met with Peter Lombardi with regards to just some concerns that I have, and
Do you still have those concerns?
I still have those concerns, and I just want to, you know, I'd like to see it, how they plan on doing it. They have something written on paper and documented on what their plan is, and their plan is to get full-time, if they go with with Amesbury and Salisbury, then they want to, what I heard from the current ACO is they want to use, I think Amesbury's full-time person as the lead person. The current ACO will be like the assistant, and then they'll have a couple of backups. Well,
So-
that's great on paper, but they don't really have those people in place yet.
So why don't we say, well, we can have a caveat. I mean, if it all on paper looks great,
That's what
but
I
you're
told
nervous that it's not going to be implemented properly. So we'll get into the contract, as long as those caveats are in place. correct?
Yeah, they're still working with Salisbury and Amesbury, so they haven't.
So we really have
reached
no,
any-
we have no thing yet.
Nothing
We
yet,
have to
no.
wait. for-
Okay,
Yeah.
so we won't put this on again until you tell us to.
Okay, I'll wait
And
to
then
hear
when
back
you
from
tell
them.
us to, that means everything's worked out to your satisfaction.
Yeah, I'll work with Mr. McCarron. We've been working together on that anyway.
Okay,
Thanks.
Just
This-
real quick, if I could just be a little bit a part of that conversation, because if they're gonna expand it and stuff, I wanna know what happens if there's money left over, and,
And they're not planning on having any money left over.
well,
so
there's
why
gotta
don't we
be,
just get him in the loop?
there's
We'll
just,
include- Mike
yeah,
Bell
I'm
will
just
include
curious,
it.
there's a few other questions
Yeah.
about some expenses as
Fun
well.
Flicks Outdoor Movies, this was already taken care of, right?
Did-
Are you,
have any luck? Okay. I did look up a few things, so maybe we can just put it on the next meeting and.
it doesn't even have to be on the next meeting. You
Okay.
just work out with him.
Yeah.
Yep. Dogs at Pipe Stave Soccer. The reason why this is on is because we just need signs up there and better policing and all that kind of stuff. Is that what, Gary? Is it you? Somebody that,
I think somebody sent an email.
yeah, somebody sent an email that it was just,
About the pictures.
yeah, the pictures.
I just wanted you to show what was going on.
Okay.
Since you were doing the,
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
thing about the leash dog.
So why don't we ask the Mill
We
Pond?
should get some signs.
Yeah, so let's find out, let's find out if we can get some signs up there and ask, so it's Pipe Stave, that would be Park and Rec, or Mill Pond, or whomever. But if we could contact both Park and Rec and Mill Pond, so we can get some signs. But this is the bigger thing. At this time, we allow, if I go to my daughter's lacrosse game, I don't have a dog any longer, but I would be able to bring my dog on a leash on the field. I think this is the only, I mean, we travel everywhere, so this is the only place I think that you can bring a dog on.
Most places I see, no dogs.
You
allowed.
can't. So that would actually be the other thing. Can we talk to Park and Recs and have a discussion that there are no longer, you know, we put up some signs that all dogs, there's no dogs on the field at all. You know,
I agree.
is that all right?
Yeah, I just thinking, for example, I agree with it, I'm just thinking like over at Byfield, people ignore the rule
Well,
big time.
That's where I saw this. They have them over there at Byfield.
yeah. No, they have them everywhere. I was just in
Yeah.
Hamilton. I was just in Linfield. They have them everywhere. Now I'm cognizant of the fact. I look. But my thing is, it's just the ignorant people. You're not going to stop them doing anything. So maybe you get
At least we lower the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But if we post it,
So if we can talk to them about that, that would be great. About having no dogs at all on the fields any longer.
They've got nice signs to that
There's
effect.
enough area up there that people can walk their dogs that don't have to be on the field. How many acres are up there? Just say, if there's 40 acres, there's only 5 acres of fields. I mean, 35 acres of, we let people even have dogs off leash if they're voice commanded. You know what I mean? So that's pretty liberal.
Well, at that particular time, like she had verbal communication, and the dog saw the other 8 dogs down the other end of the field. They didn't listen to anything she said.
No, they don't care. They don't care. It's like a sitcom. Okay, that's done. I'm gonna if this fire and police accidental renewal and the auditor, I'm gonna let you two gentlemen take care of, if you wouldn't mind. But I'd like to put reorganization on the next agenda, if we could do that.
Sure.
I'd like to actually have a discussion about ticks. And with the Board of Health. We seem to spray and we seem to be so concerned about mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And I think ticks are far more.
Oh, I agree. I was doing the town cleanup on Saturday, and I looked, like, all of a sudden, like, on my shoulder, there was a huge tick.
Other towns. Really? I mean, so I don't know if we have anything, but some type of discussion about spraying, and please, people at home, I'm not talking about spraying or something. I just want to start a discussion.
I heard you say spray.
I want to start a discussion about if there is anything out there. We spray for mosquitoes, we don't spray for mosquitoes, whatever, but towns now in the North Shore
We need to understand it, yeah.
are taking action over the increase in ticks because of the disease. I mean, it's far serious, sir. I know my English teacher probably won't be happy with that word, than I think mosquitoes. I could totally be wrong. but we go nuts over one horse, or we find one crow in, Worcester, and people are getting Lyme disease. Mr. Venoris, I think, had a major problem in this town with Lyme disease borne by ticks and stuff that, that he could not get through. I mean, I want to talk about it. So I don't know how we started, because it's more of a Board of Health thing, but I'd like to have a conversation about it.
Okay. Good idea.
Anything else?
No.
And we'll be meeting on Wednesday?
Wednesday at 7 here.
Yeah, I told you the information about Whittier. Dave Mansfield said that.
Yeah, I tried to call him. He never called me back.
Yeah, that they're not accepting any out of choice children out of the district any longer, and all the West Newbury applicants, which were 6, were accepted and going next year. Okay, I'm just going to sign off, myself personally. Because I'm not even sure if I'm a selectman anymore. So I have no checks.
Let us know if you're not. That way you don't have to come back.
I'm not coming back anymore. I'm going home, going to bed. If you don't mind. Joe, I hand it over to you since you're a senior person. Who's the clerk? It's all yours, Joe.
Glenn, do you have that paper?
I already signed it.
Did you sign the warrant?
I will.
You good?
It's got a yellow.
I signed it.
Arrows.
Those you signed?
No, I signed that. That's the accident, right? Insurance. See you guys Wednesday.
Have a good night. Hi, Tony. Want to come up?
I'm next.
Yep, you're up. You're it. Thanks for coming.
No problem.
I was just looking for a general review of all the work you did. I did have a few questions. I don't know what.
This kind of summarizes this year's audit, so we can look through this.
Okay.
Much more.
Yes, I have a copy.
Archie, was there anything you were looking for?
No, to be honest, not too much, no.
It's Tony with his fancy colors.
Okay.
Okay, well, my name's Tony Roselli with the firm of Roselli, Clark and Associates, and we've completed our second audit of the town of West Newbury. And the first thing I'd like to say is both Mike and Dave, we worked with them in closing the fiscal 14 books, although they weren't working with their own records. Both did a very nice job of providing the information that we needed. There is one area that we'll get into, but for the most part, we got all the information that we needed, and we're able to complete the audit, I believe, what, Mike, almost right after Christmas. So we did it pretty quickly this year, so it's been done for a while. And so I'd just like to thank them for their help, and now we can get into the actual summary of the audit. Okay, in the first couple of slides, we talk about economic trends. So slide 3 and 4, we can jump into. And you can see that the town has continued where it left off at the end of 13. Into 14, the reserves is, slight bump up in reserves, which is nice. Even though you use some free cash, you still got a little bump up in reserves. You're faring well above your peers. You're well above your state average of 8%, which you're at about.
Do you think we have too much? I know people in finance are going to say you can never have too much, but I mean, we are well above the average. So those are people's tax dollars that they paid.
Yes, I mean, and I've looked at this. You don't have a lot of capital happening, because this is what you could use capital for. Mm-hmm. Your OPEB is 100% funded, so it's not like you can put money into OPEB. Your pension is still, it's still, you're at the whim of the county, but your pension is not fully funded. So if you wanted to do something, you could establish some sort of a pension stabilization fund to put some money in.
I mean, we're at 21. Should we be in the upper teens instead?
Well, 15 is the high watermark for S&P AAA, so you're 6% above that.
Right.
Right. I'm just curious. Are we like when I read that? I agree with Joe. When I read that, are we a complete outlier, or are there other towns like this too?
Most of mine are in the 8 to 12. I do have 4 or 5 towns that are with you guys.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. So you're not the only one out there. but I do have 4 or 5 that are in that group. And Mike comes from a town that never had these sorts of reserves, so he, you know, I know Mike's got an appetite for reserves because that was something that Winthrop never had. And
Mike, what's your thought?
Well, my thought is, and I've asked the Essex County Retirement System, in lieu of setting up another
You want to put it in the pension?
stabilization fund, I asked them if we could have some type of subsidiary account that they would control, just like a pension. It would be West Newbury A, which gets our annual
Yes,
contribution.
yes.
And then I want to have a West Newbury B, so when we have this money, we still owe them $5.5 million. And I'd like to get the credit of being in a big system, the economies of scale, to dilute some of the costs, and let them manage it so I can continue to chase that liability.
Did they answer you?
They haven't answered me yet. They said it's been like 3 months, and I'm getting a little itchy.
Why would they turn down money?
That's my thing.
Yeah.
I think they just don't understand it. I sat with them, and I said, look, all you have to do is just count us as another town.
They probably never had that question before.
Yeah.
Right.
And just net it out, because what we would gain would be the ability to get a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% return, catch that liability, which is to me far more important than
Yes.
the OPEB. The OPEB's not even required to be funded.
Right.
You just need a plan. So what happens now is we're funding our OPEB, and we're so conservative, we're actually losing ground. We're getting 2.3%, and the actuarial is 6. So you're gonna slowly lose ground if you're too conservative and don't at least keep up with your actuarial. So I would much rather see the money be put towards the $5.5 million liability.
Mike, when you get an answer from them, one thing I think would be interesting to know is if say the town had a bad year or something, that I wouldn't want us to be locked into something where we, you know, okay, we said we're going to put in 250 or whatever number, and say 4 years from now we didn't have the 250. I wouldn't want us to be in a situation where we had to put in the 250. That it would purely be
Optional.
voluntary. Yeah.
Right, and that would be my recommendation as well. It would even be to the extent that, hey, we put $75,000 a year. After 3 years, you know what? The economy turned. We can use some of that money towards our appropriation if we had to.
Oh, even take it out?
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Oh.
or even to hedge it a little bit to keep it at whatever our, you know, expected increase would be. If we try to keep the budget at 2%, we could take the other 3 out of this extra money. To me, it's not really any more work. It would be more money for them, and it shouldn't be any more work. It's just call us.
One more line on the
That's all.
spreadsheet.
Right.
Why?
And they
how
would
could
just
they
say,
turn it
oh,
down?
right,
I know.
right.
You know,
right,
and we
right.
would, you know, say, look, we're only going to tell you each year, you know, 6 months before or 90 days before what we want to put in, and if we want to use any of that money toward our current year, you know, assessment. And to me, it's something they should do. They have the staff to do it. All of our money is being managed by the state, so it's not like they're dealing with 46
No,
different
but I mean, they're
money
not going to
managers.
create a separate
Right.
portfolio just for that anyway. No, they're just
Right.
going to put it in
Right.
the big pot. Yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
and just call it another, so that's what I'm hoping that comes out of it. I gotta put a little more pressure, because it's been, you know, 3 months since I asked them, but.
Yeah, a lot of these towns that belong to the counties, they have, they'll have the town, they'll have a redevelopment authority, they'll have a housing authority. Each one of those is a separate component in the county retirement system, so I would think it's something that they would be able to
Right.
set up another slot, you know, for you guys. So I'd be interested in finding out what you come up with
Right.
as a result of your research.
Okay.
So basically, the second page just echoes the first, so we don't have to go too crazy there. But and then just to summarize, financial trends are good. The metric is above the floor. You're above state averages. Your credit rating, the last time it was done, was AA2. That was, I mean, it's a different world now since 2010. So if you were to go out and get a credit rating, I think you'd see a dramatic improvement in your credit rating. But there's really no need for it, because you're not doing the capital, and you're not, you know, so there's, you don't just raise your hand and say, come do a credit rating if you don't really have a need. So
Right. Why spend the 10 grand?
right. So so at this point, if you were to do it, I'm sure it would go higher. I'm sure it would go higher. I just had put a slide there on bond rating. We don't have to go through that, just, again, indicating that it would go higher if you were to have a bond rating. Okay, let's look at some of the operational items and findings. Let's talk about prior year items that have been addressed. We'll do that on the next 3 pages. Mike has implemented, with SoftWrite, which is your town's accounting system, Mike has implemented the cash book module. So going forward, that should help with the cash reconciliations and the bank reconciliations. So that's something.
Okay, give me that in English. So what's that mean?
Okay,
is that
well,
just a software program or what?
It's software where right now the cash. Okay, so here's what has to happen. The treasurer collector basically owns the bank accounts. Okay, checks are written, deposits are made. They have a set of books, and the way it was being done was Warren using QuickBooks, I think it was, QuickBooks or Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. He was using more of a simple form of keeping track of his cash. Dave's got a GL. Every transaction is communicated from the treasurer collector's office to the town accountant, who then records it in the GLs. So you have two cash books going. Every month you have to look at those and make sure they agree. Okay, it's a control. Because the treasurer's office is depositing and dispersing and signing, the control is here. These have to match, or there could be a problem if they don't match. So what that's done is it's made it easier for the treasurer's office to account for their cash, so it should make it easier to then compare to what Dave has in his cash. Does that make sense?
Yep. Why wasn't that happening before?
It wasn't.
Yeah, why? I mean,
No.
I know.
It was a problem that I had, and we'll get into, that there was a pretty serious issue that we're going to talk about, and we might as well talk about it now while we're on the cash.
Really quick though, it is common though. Most people in a lot of towns, the bank to book is confused. So you got to go bank to book to cash book. In a perfect world, all 3 will match. Sometimes people go bank to cash book. It's really bank to GL to cash book.
Have we reconciled that back now?
I have it we're probably around in the low 90s implemented. I've been doing it with the cash book. We switched over a system where we send an electronic file to the bank where the bank's only going to cash these 100 checks. Mm-hmm. And then we get the file back, it's uploaded into our GL when Dave writes the checks, and then I clear them, and we've been balancing that every month. Because that's what's the outstanding checks is what throws you off.
Right.
So we've been balancing that.
But what about going backwards before you guys were here?
I would say that until we come out with the same exact variance each month, can we be certain with that? We found a few timing issues as recently as last month where the online banking system, when someone goes online and they pay with an electronic check versus when they pay with the credit card, those 2 deposits come in sometimes a day or 2 apart. So when you're going to clear that deposit, you're looking at a deposit of say $6,000 or $7,000, and you can't seem to find it. It's because one day 3,500 come in, and the next day or 2 days later, $3,000 come in. Well, we corrected that with the vendor, so now we've tried to simplify the whole process so it'll flow a lot easier. As far as going back, it's difficult because of some of those things. We're still within what we call, an acceptable variance percentage-wise, but we're seeing it smooth out and the variance is getting real tight. But as far as going back, when you look at certain checks, I know I found just 1 or 2 that were old outstanding that actually weren't outstanding. So sometimes you could be off just a very little, and sometimes you could be off still within a range, and it's still okay.
Okay.
But we're in good shape. We're comfortable with everything as far as that goes, and it's just, there's some other things we will implement towards the end of the year just to make it as simple and straightforward ahead. So any future transitions or any additions or deletions to the staff, that everyone will have a comfort level of what we're actually doing.
So what Mike is saying, okay, and flipping back, in the past, the reconciliations were 9 or 10 months behind.
The bank reconciliations?
The bank and the GL reconciliations, and in last year's management letter, we said, if this is not, and I told Warren, if this is not corrected, it will be a material weakness. And you're fortunate that it balanced, you know, in 13. You're fortunate that when you finally finished, you were within an immaterial amount. Well, we get to 14, and, you know, we sat down with Mike, and we said, Mike, where did Warren leave you with the reconciliations? Did you reconcile to the town accountant? That had not been done. It had only gotten through, I guess, March or April. So when we completed the process, or tried to, and got to within $48,000, which is a number. 48,000 is a number. What Mike is saying is that using that as 0.0, 48,000, that going forward, he's managed to maintain
I see what you mean.
that
Okay,
variance
okay.
going forward. But
Is it possible that that could be things from 17 years ago still hanging around, or not?
Well, not really, because at the end of 13,
You balanced it.
they were pretty much in balance at the end of 13.
Okay.
So
All right.
these are things that happened in that period of time where, and you had Eileen leave and you had Warren leave, so
Yeah.
they're really the only ones that have the
No.
institutional knowledge to say, yeah, I remember that era. These guys didn't have that, you know, that knowledge.
Is that something we should try to figure out, or just kind of go with it, or?
Well, you got to make a decision. Do you want to write it off, or do you want to have, you know, a consultant come in and, you know, like the guy that did the GL work, have him come in and these guys are doing their own work every day, so it's more of a distraction for them to try to just stop everything they're doing, their daily duties, and try to figure this out. So if it was me, I would call in a consultant and say, can you look at 14, get it to the point where it balances, and then Mike's and Dave's books going forward already balanced, so you should be in good shape at that point.
So was it 48 that the town is owed, or we have 48 more than we thought we did?
48 less.
48 less, okay.
Of course.
So that's the decision you need to make as a team. Do we write it off?
Right.
Do we do a miscellaneous expense? Do we somehow get rid of this, or do we go back and try to find it?
Do you have any idea what that would cost to have somebody come in and do that?
I don't, but I'm sure, you know, to get it, you know, there's probably maybe two or three. We looked at it pretty intensively.
Okay.
You know, I had Eric look at it pretty intensively. You know, we did reach out to the old accountant. We never heard back because there might have been some entries that she was familiar with. But on the surface, you know, I don't know. I don't know how much, but you're talking probably somewhere between 8 to 14K.
That's what I would think, yeah, probably somewhere around 15 just to get it, because they'd really have to analyze the year.
But it's tough because a lot of the focus was on the cash book. And
Right.
being an accountant, yes, cash book is important, but cash book is an old term. Cash book is when you turned over the cash book from the collector to the
Yeah.
treasurer.
Well, one thing
Mike.
that
Hello.
Who won?
Who won?
Glenn Kemper?
Glenn won.
Good. All
Lucky
right.
guy, huh?
That's all we want to know.
And Andrew Murphy won for school committee.
Okay.
And then all the other candidates won too.
Who's the assessor?
That we don't know yet. We
Oh.
have 111 write-in
Really?
ballots for assessor, and we're counting them now.
Okay.
Wow,
100.
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Holy.
350 votes.
one thing that I'd like to see, if you do have a consultant come in, even if they are not able to reconcile it, at least go through the bank accounts and make sure every withdrawal has a corresponding reason to it. That's one of the things I probably would do, which may not be as costly, even if you don't get it to to balance in the end.
Okay.
So we're talking 0.3% of 1%.
Yeah, the
of
percentages are
budget.
small, we know that.
It's still,
The percentages
it's
are
not
small.
even a half of 1%.
Right, the
It's-
percentages are small.
Yeah, it's
48
3/10.
grand.
What?
48 grand.
It's 48 grand, but it's, like I say, it's 0.35%. I just figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not when you look at the percentages and everything, it's not a significant number. So it's something that you folks need to,
Okay.
decide as a team.
Yeah.
All right.
It may make sense to go through the 15 audit, see if some of it shook out, like 14 going into 15, come up with a final variance, and then decide. That may make sense. 15 is going to be ending in about 6 or 7 weeks, and the audit would probably get done in the fall. So that's something you can
I
do.
see
Not
what
that
you're
far
saying.
away,
Does it
yeah.
come out to be 47 or 51 or something next?
Yeah, or
time?
maybe we find 15 or 20 that somehow has shifted between the years. It's come up that we weren't aware of when we were doing the 14 audit.
That's a good idea. Okay.
So, okay, so that's the cash side. Mike has told me that you guys are investigating regionalization opportunities, so that's good. We had made a recommendation in the prior year to take a look at that. Also, with Mike and Dave on board, what I understand is the financial policies and the fraud policies are going to be updated and developed.
We're working on it,
And working
yeah.
on those. The internal audits we had talked about, which would be really the cash audits and the operational efficiencies of departments, those I guess are being planned, and that's something that Dave's going to be working on. Public Works inventory has been strengthened, access to the inventory, and knowing what the major items, that's been strengthened. Cash handling policies, Mike's already got a policy for cash handling, and all employees who handle up to 10 are now bonded, through your insurance. Procurement, again, that was a problem last year. Dave, you're getting most of the contracts now? You're getting them all? Okay, so that's been corrected.
Good.
There were two rental items that we had noted. One, I think, was one that you had adopted from the school. Talked to Mike, the council, town solicitor, and he's indicated that those are on their way to being fully in compliant, if not already.
One's been taken care of, and one's pretty much.
Timing on the next one was pretty good. The standard snow removal contracts that we had recommended last year. And
I don't know that we actually did that.
It didn't get as well corrected as we wanted, but we're working on it.
We tried doing it after we already had 2 snowstorms.
We should-
It didn't
we
work
should-
out too good. We almost didn't have any plows. So we're gonna do it this year.
We should just do, respond to somebody had a comment. So, respond to his comment, and we should just put the contract in place, because that really just formalizes, it doesn't really add requirements to what they're doing.
No, I can probably almost use Mass Highways as a template and just come up with some, it's basically simple.
No.
Make it simple.
Mass Highway has a snow plow, could you send it to us?
Yeah, so Mike was working on it. So
Okay, or Mike, whatever.
Actually, we need to get going on that before winter comes.
Yes.
It's coming shortly.
We need to do it, when it's 90.
The last of my snow melted today, so.
Really? Today? Wow.
The part that was in the shade.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Where I blow it all, yeah, it was in the shade, and
Wow.
finally it's gone. Interest income is being posted timely. In the past, it was always a month behind. Your PEG access fees have been brought into compliance.
What's that mean? What's that one? I don't know what
Which
that
one?
PEG, what is
PEG
it?
access is cable.
Oh,
That's
okay.
your cable
The
fees.
cable, okay.
So that's been brought into compliance. Yeah, there are state regulations that govern that, and that was brought into compliance during the year. The library trust fund money, there was an issue with that, and who the custodian was. That's all been properly addressed. So a lot of things, those 3 pages, the town's made a great effort to really address our management letter in the prior year. So, congratulations on that, because you have either addressed it or you're well on your way to addressing it. The last area is the cash that we'd like to see. All right, so informational items, SAS 115 material weakness, that is the cash issue, so we've talked about that. We don't need to rehash that. There's new pension standards. I won't bore you too much with that. Mike's aware of them. It's just accounting disclosure, new GASBs. We have to get information from Essex County. So I just made Mike aware that he should be working with Essex County to get the information so that we have it when we do the audit. This next one is a pretty interesting one, and the timing is actually pretty good. Municipal data breach protection.
I remember you talked about that last year.
Yeah, Wayland got hit for $4 million. Okay, they were able to block it, fortunately, but some malware got in and tried to redirect $4 million to South America. Wow. And the FBI came in, consultants came in, and basically they weren't protected. And the treasurer no longer has a job there. It was a pretty serious situation. And it really caught the attention of the state. They're really pushing this issue now. They're going to be doing trainings. They're going to be doing conferences on this. On a smaller scale, Salisbury Police, Tewksbury Police, they've got hit with the ransomware.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where they come in and just block your data unless you give them, small amounts of money, $500 or $700. The moral of the story there is back everything up so you don't have to pay them. You've got it on backup. Hey, goodbye. I don't need you, You've got it backed up. So back it up every day. These towns were not as backed up as they should have been.
Do we back up?
Yes, we actually,
How frequently?
we back up every night. We switched over about,
The whole town?
yeah, we switched, there was a grant opportunity back in August that came out. If we went with this vendor, they would pay for the money. They would pay for 1 month of data backup. So we called the vendor direct, got a better deal. I teamed up with the chief of police, and we bought like 500 gigs and had Jake transfer everything over. Jake helped us out too. So between the three of us, we transferred it over, and Jake was a lot more happy because now we have, enough data that we can back up the police separately from the town, yet together we went from paying $300 a month to like $800 for the whole year.
Is it a cloud thing, or?
I'm actually not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
No, yes, it is a cloud thing.
All right.
It's a cloud thing, but we got a lot more bang for our buck. And Jake, was the one that said he's happier now because we have more complete backups. Some of the, data, and there's a lot. It's, we get updates. It's all automated, so.
Okay.
So I'm just curious about, in terms of wouldn't the financial institution be the ultimate source of, like, wouldn't they put a red flag on, okay, before the money even got lost, wouldn't, whatever bank it is, say,
Yeah, if you don't,
give a heads up, hey, you're sending $3 million to Buenos Aires. I think they'd call you first.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
set up that way, unfortunately the town wasn't set up that way, so it was more directed off of what the system was saying. Use a word, and your username and password was all that was needed. So one of the recommendations that came out of this is that there should be one dedicated computer, okay, that doesn't have web surfing ability or email access or anything, just a dedicated VPN to the banks, okay, so that you're not going to get, the hackers are not going to be able to get in, they're not going to be able to do their thing. So anything that you're doing your banking on, there should be one dedicated computer just for all your banking transactions. And that's one of the ways that you could at least mitigate the risk of these problems. So,
Okay.
got some prices on these audits for a town about this size, because there's a lot of them going on now. Everyone's kind of getting scared. running somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 to get someone to come in and kind of look at what your weaknesses are. So just so you have that number in mind in case that's something you want to proceed with.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So, we have tokens, we have passwords, we have daily limits that we can do.
When was the last time you changed your password?
I have to change it every like 60 days.
So you've got a process.
Yeah,
in
they
place
make
that
us,
does
I
that.
mean, and then, the time tickers and,
Yeah.
the little tokens, so
Do you
did
have
we?
you have an outsourced software company, right, that helps you with that, the data processing? Just a company that comes in, once a month maybe, and just looks at, who does your data processing in town? Is it you?
No, well, I'm saying with each transaction, I get a phone call and talk to the bank and I have to give them a secret code.
Right, but if you got programming issues, if you've got
We have a half day a week MIS guy that comes in. He's the one we work with to
outsourced,
do
right,
the,
an outsourced
Yeah.
MIS. So some things are probably being done, some of the routine tasks are being done and probably being done effectively.
It's just that, with what Archie was saying, like if my bank, someone tried to take out.
They call you first.
Yeah, we only, use one bank where we've cut down a lot of the other banks where there's only, either I have to go in person or, we have to go through some pretty, and I'm just wondering if Wayland got caught with did they have some of the banks where you have the key code, the token, the password, the PIN call back?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was.
I'd be
'cause
curious on what broke down there.
Yeah, it's still under investigation, so I don't know exactly what it was that happened.
Because the bank has a certain amount of, liability.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
I said,
you think the bank
right.
had to be on the hook a little bit, yeah.
So,
I don't know, Mike, if you go to some of the, like the accounting courses and the treasurer's courses, this is gonna be discussed, and they're gonna have specialists that were involved in the Wayland, like doing conferences and things, so it might be something to think about, just to get in there and.
Right.
They've already done them a couple of times.
They've done them?
The accountant.
Yeah, so, just,
Couple of different companies.
again, just something to be aware of that's happening, and you seem to see one every other week now. The last couple of things here, we talked about on page 11. We talked about the first two bullets with the cash and bank. The town has a lot of stabilization activity going back and forth, and one transfer was missed, so it lowered your free cash. Your free cash should have been higher at the end of 14. So really no harm, no foul, because you had plenty of free cash. So it was just an accounting entry that got missed, and it could have easily happened with all the transitioning happening. You had a bunch of different people handling different things at the close. So I view that as unique and something that's not going to happen. In fact, I talked to Dave, and I saw the process that he has in place to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm pretty comfortable that that was a one-time thing. Chart of accounts, next page. Needs to be redesigned. It's really a cluster mess. Just the codification, where things are on the balance sheet. It's very difficult to follow, and it causes inefficiencies and errors like the ones we saw on the previous page. I think both of these gentlemen will agree that that's something that needs to be addressed and corrected. So that's something that you may hear a little bit more about. And then finally, other post-employment benefits. You're only required to have evaluation every 3 years. You're fully funded. I think you might be putting too much in now, potentially. In fact, you've got an asset now. You've got an asset of $230,000. So it may be nice to have, instead of waiting for the 3 years to be up, just do an actuarial study sooner, because it may lower what you need to put in.
Well, we didn't put anything in this
Okay.
year.
Good. That makes sense.
Have we been withdrawing from it?
I believe last year they did, but I didn't.
Because before you came, they were not.
Right.
Right, there was 0 withdrawals before.
I didn't see any
yeah.
up through 14. So unless it happened in 15.
Yeah, we opted not to, and because we want to look at it a little bit closer. We're making some moves on health insurance. They're really not going to affect the OPEB because they're for retirees, and the retirees rate is much more, is much better protected, and the
It's more
rationale
stable,
they
yeah,
use
yeah.
to set it is different. So the only thing is, sometimes being so conservative, if you don't get to those actuarial marks, you do go backwards a little. You can, at one time, you can be fully funded, and then you can be,
Back a little, right.
98%, 97, which I would be comfortable with anywhere from 95 to say 105
Right.
or 110.
Right.
So we'll look at it with the next actuarial, and we'll decide whether we need to start withdrawing money to pay for some of these.
There's been some good investment returns too.
That's probably a good idea to do that, though, to get the study.
Yeah, I mean, it's inexpensive. It's not, just an update, just to say, hey.
I think I think that cost about 10,000 too, if I recall.
Maybe a little bit less, but yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
And it's important to know what they do when they do an actuarial. And that's because it's not as unique to West Newbury as people think. Some of the data that they use is state-driven. So you need to have them come out and tell us, in layman's terms, the numbers.
That's it?
Okay.
Questions?
I think we asked them along the way. I did.
Yep.
I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, just going through this, my only question was about the cash stuff, and it gets the reconciliations, yeah.
Good. Thanks for coming in, appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. My pleasure.
Do we have
Thank
anything
you.
else? We don't have anything else.
Police and fire, it's over there.
This, Glenn, what do we have to do with it? It said signed by the chairman, Glenn signed it.
Yeah. I didn't know whether it was going to be after he got elected again, and whether you were
Oh, if he wasn't elected, you mean?
No, I mean if you were going to reorganize the board.
Oh, not tonight, yeah, next time.
What you need to do is just, there's some place in there that says, you're either gonna do the same thing you did last year, or you want to increase it. And we increased it maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and, it's probably okay for now.
Where does it say?
Oh, so the limits and things were changed a few years ago? Okay.
Okay, so this is, I'm not following what we need to do. I mean, this is fine like it is, or?
That page that has the,
Joe, the gray highlighted area that's the we could make those any number we wanted, and it would change the premium, obviously.
Right. Okay. So basically, it's the $20,690 what the premium is.
I think you just have to,
Approve it.
find the page that we, used last year and just say the same.
Okay. Move to approve keeping the police and fire accident renewal the same at $20,690.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Anything else?
No.
Adjourn. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.